My project this semester is all about web accessibility and how it pertains to online students and the web applications that they use for their courses. I developed an application called GroupWork that is designed for student collaboration and is specifically built with web accessibility in mind from the start. Now, the web has existed since 1989, but over all this time, despite all the conversation and all of the work that's been done, accessibility still remains a significant issue, a significant area of lack on the internet. This is becoming a bigger and bigger issue for businesses as more and more lawsuits under Section 508 and of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and under the Americans with Disabilities Act are being brought against companies that have websites that are inaccessible to people with certain sorts of disabilities. Universities are certainly no exception to this rule. Back in just 2015, there was a significant lawsuit brought by the National Association of the Deaf against both Harvard and MIT, arguing that they were producing discriminatory content because they were producing all, Harvard and MIT were both leaders in the MOOC area, but they were producing courses that didn't have any captions, so deaf and hard of hearing people, students could not consume the media. In 2016, a large evaluation was done of the websites of a huge range of higher education institutions, and they found that the fact that they were prestigious universities and institutions did nothing for the accessibility of their websites, and they certainly were not taking it into account. There seems to be this underlying assumption that disability is rare, and that only a very small percentage of the population, a very small sliver of the population, is actually disabled in a way that would affect web accessibility, but this just is not true. A 2018 CDC analysis of 2016 survey data of United States adults over the age of 18 found that more than 25% of adults surveyed reported as having some form of disability. So it's by no means a small portion of the population, and it should not be discounted. Some of the tools most commonly used by students in online programs have significant accessibility problems. Here we have 3 different quotes describing the accessibility problems seen in 3 very popular web applications that are used by students in online programs all the time, including Slack, which we use at Georgia Tech, Google Drive, which I think most people use, and Trello, which is a popular task management software. So clearly we have this problem. So how do we go about fixing it? So my project is a web application called GroupWork. It's a proof of concept to demonstrate. It's really about demonstrating the development process and how it's possible to bake accessibility into a development process from the start. The application itself is designed for student groups in online courses to work on group projects together, to collaborate from a distance. The main 3 features are a real-time chat with markdown support, file manager for uploading, organizing, basic text editing, and downloading files needed for your project, and a task management section where you can create lists of tasks. You can assign them to users. You can create deadlines. You can track the state of them and edit them. The process that I proposed has 2 basic parts. Before you begin and throughout the development process, you should be familiarizing yourself with the guidance and the documents produced by the World Wide Web Consortium, who maintains the specifications for the web that browsers then go and implement. They have a ton of really, really good information, and really accessible in a different sense, very readable and digestible and pragmatic information on how to much more easily get that low-hanging fruit and make your website much more accessible than it otherwise would be very easily. And the second step is to, from the start, as soon as you have anything to evaluate, begin evaluating the accessibility of your application along the way. As far as documents, I've listed several here. If you take nothing else away from this, please, anyone who's watching this who is a web developer, please read the Using ARIA document here. using ARIA. It's very simple. It's not dry. It's easy to read, and it's immediately usable and practical. The evaluation step itself, I broke it into two subsections. There's a balance to be struck here between finding all of the bugs that you possibly can to fix them, and between not wanting to slow down the development process too much. So I've tried to balance this by splitting it into two parts. Frequently, as soon as you have anything to test, start regularly. I said every 2 weeks, but it can be whatever works for your team. But regularly, maybe as soon as the feature's done, evaluate it with automated tools so that you can do it quickly and get some of the most obvious kind of low-hanging fruit bugs. And then periodically, I say every 6 weeks, it could be longer, especially once the application gets bigger and it's a longer process, do a full, thorough evaluation, top to bottom, of the actual application. I recommend first doing a conformance evaluation, which is to say making sure that your website completely conforms to a standard like Section 508 guidelines or the W3C's WCAG 2.1. And then performing what's called a barrier walkthrough, which is a thorough process where you identify the major user goals and walk through each of them under different conditions, simulating the various barriers that different users with different disabilities might encounter in trying to reach their goals, and trying to figure out how big of an issue those barriers are in your application in particular. And that is that. Let's take a look at the actual application itself. So this is the application as it's currently hosted online. This is public. It's at groupwork.kenbellows.com. You can feel free to go and create an account and poke around. So if I log in, we have the three major features, as I mentioned, and then a user settings page. This is, I didn't get to do as much with this as I would like to. I have just two very simple accessibility preferences, increasing the text size and then increasing the letter spacing. But it's really here more to demonstrate what you could do. You could put a lot more here, margins and colors and all sorts of things. To look at the three major sections of the application, we have the chat, which like I said, supports Markdown, and that works. We have the file manager. You can preview files of certain types. There are exceptions, but it supports Markdown previewing, supports previewing images, text files, basically any type, audio files, video, cute video of my son when he was younger. You can upload additional files as such. You can enter an alternate name if you want. I don't want in this case. Enter a description, so that especially this is important for images and non-textual media, so that non-sighted users can understand what it is, or for audio, for sound files, so that hard of hearing users can understand what it is without actually having to consume the media the way that others would be able to. Certain files I don't know how to preview, or I haven't implemented yet, at least, like docx files. I don't have a previewer set up for that yet, but this is the sort of thing that could be expanded in the future. On each file, you can leave a comment if you wanted to. Okay, that's the idea. And Task Manager, you can manage lists of tasks. You can edit a task, say done. You can say record video. Oh, that's in progress now. So I'll do that one. Submit assignment. Zip up all the files and submit to Canvas. I'll assign that to myself. I'll leave it in a to-do process, and it's due today. All right, and that's basically the application. Just to very briefly touch on it, this is the output from my conformance evaluation. I used a tool called Accessibility Insights for Web. It's a Chrome extension. I highly recommend it. It's very useful for conformance testing, which is what this is the output of. It's a WCAG 2.0 AA level test. It's great. And then these are some notes on my barrier walkthrough process, which I'll also include in my zip file. And that is basically it. Like I said, it's hosted online. I would love if anybody wanted to poke around on it and give me feedback. Thanks very much.